All right, so we're here in the discussion topic for this week's episode of The Awakened Soul, and this one got started because of a question that was presented to me. So I had announced short film, The Creative, and I also like started talking and taking my photography and videography side business more seriously, going into the spring and it's warming up, and I figured it was a perfect opportunity to really start taking that stuff more seriously and doing more than what I've been doing with it. Um, so I got a question about that. Also got a question about going into being a creative full time. And a lot of those questions are built around like, how do you know when you're ready? How do you get to the point of even being thinking that that's an option? And it's not anything that you really want to go into half cocked really or without a plan. So it started making me think. That's how I came to the discussion topic that I'm going to be talking about today. And this one is basically how to reverse engineer success, right? Especially in business or in really anything you want to do. So it's applicable to anything. I may focus it kind of on business here, but just know that this is really, you can apply this almost anywhere. And the first thing that I think that separates people who entrepreneurs or people who go into business for themselves or take that chance is vision. And that's the first thing that you have to have. And not everyone's a visionary, but everyone can develop an ability to have vision, even if it's on something singular, right? So you have to visualize ultimately what you want to do. You have to get that into position first. What is it that you want to do? Why do you want to do it? It has to be in your heart. You like so many people, you see people that start a bunch of stuff and they never really finish it or nothing's ever really successful. They're just ultimately with a bunch of failed ideas or failed dreams or failed ventures. That's because ultimately you have to have a clear vision. Now, yes, you have to leave room for that vision to grow, turn into other things, but have a singular vision that you want to do first, execute that very well, and then build it out after at that point. And I kind of make the comparison to even what I do now. Like I started off with podcasting, never having edited a piece of audio in my life. Then I built that, right? I didn't want to pay anyone for editing. I didn't want to keep asking anybody. So I sat down and I learned it myself. And that started my creative journey. From that process of then doing audio and adding in clips and doing XYZ and just being more creative with the things I built it slowly but surely with effects and feeling more comfortable and mastering and everything. I built that out. Then it turned into, so my vision, to say what my vision was then, my vision was I wanted to be a podcaster. That was the clear vision that I had. I didn't go into anything thinking I wanted to be a actual full creative. That phrase, I don't even know if it existed or if I knew what that was at that time. So that's not anything that I went into thinking to be a creative. My vision was I wanted to be a podcaster. I wanted to be able to produce quality audio. That was my vision. Now that did turn into, as I started being more creative with my audio, it's like, all right, I want to do more. Like I want to do this. And so video seemed like a natural evolution to what I was doing with audio, what I was doing with podcasting in general. And so I was terrified of visuals and doing videos for so long, and eventually I just did it, and I started editing it, and that turned into a love of, after I got the camera, a love of photography, and it just all blossomed out until I learned all these skills that I taught myself, or through the University of YouTube, or through osmosis, or talking to Dan, or talking to other creatives that I just built. And then I realized, okay, once I did have all these skills, what do I want to do with those? That's when the vision of actually being a creative came to mind. And at that point, I thought about, all right, photography, video, audio. These are things that I can do right up there with any expert. I built myself to that position where I fully believe that I'm up there, that there's people who went to school for audio who aren't as good with it as I am. So I built that into now being a creative and also being a speaker. I'm speaking at the Melanin Mana Festival in Dallas next weekend, and I did tours, I did my own live shows from my own podcast, did afros and audio. So I've done a lot of speaking things. So that now has become the base of what I'm building, right? All those different skills. So once that became a thing, it's now like, all right, I can really turn this into something. I could turn speakers. For some reason, people like hearing me talk. I could turn speaking into something. I could turn videography into something. I could turn photography into something. It all came together, but you have to have a vision. And like I say all that to say, you have to leave room for that vision to grow naturally. Don't try to force things in it that don't align with it. You see like companies that try to do a different product that are completely off like what they originally did, and some are successful, some are not. You have to build it out and build it out naturally. And once you start having that vision, that's when the things that we're about to start talking about come into place. So that vision, that is kind of our first step is the look inside yourself. The first principle of being able to reverse engineer your way to success is knowing what you're capable of knowing what you're willing to put into what you're doing. You have to be honest with yourself about what type of person you are and the values that you want to have in whatever you're chasing. You have to know yourself. You have to look within yourself. Do you have the time to do what you want to do? Do you have the dedication to go through it when it gets tough? Look inside yourself and realize what and you're willing to do and what you're capable of. That honesty with yourself is what's going to eventually make it be something that you can truly do or something you're just always going to wish you had done. The next thing is elevate your mistakes. Mistakes, I always say that the specialness in what you're doing, and as a leader and someone who's been in management, my management style was always, sometimes you have to let some people fail, and then that's when you can build them up. That's when they're more willing to try new things and try your ideas. Some people are that open from the get-go. Some people aren't. You have to evaluate your mistakes. You have to be willing to be honest with your mistakes, and then you reverse engineer those mistakes as well. You take a step back. All right, this was the mistake. These are the steps I did to get up to the mistake. Where did I go wrong at it? You have to be willing to reverse engineer that mistake as well, and then by doing that, you're building yourself towards that success. Next thing is finding a role model. I talked earlier about sometimes you have to see and you seek out people who have attributes that you don't have. You have to look at people who are successful, maybe in the field that you're wanting to go in, or maybe in different fields. How can you apply the attributes that they have or the steps that they took into what you want to do? You have to, and you always say, surround yourself with people with like-minded individuals. Surround yourself with people who have that entrepreneur spirit, if that's ultimately what you want to be, or other creatives that you want to be. You don't have to necessarily collab with other podcasters. You can look at what YouTubers do. You can look at what artists do. You can look at what rappers do. You can look at a lot of different things. But you have to find someone who has that drive in them, or who has that you admire. And then when you look at them already being successful, how can you reverse engineer that success? How can you take a step back and try? It's very, like with some fields, it's hard to reverse engineer success, or it's hard to find what's special, because sometimes it's that lightning in the bottle, or like you can't really teach drive with some people. So when some fields that are all built around drive and being a go-getter, some people just don't have that. But you can take a look at what other things that they do have and see how you want to apply that to yourself. At one point, we talked about financial insecurity here, right? Because of a conversation that Dan had on A Few Loose Screws. We talked about financial insecurity and how some people, especially in our community, it's more important to look wealthy than to actually build wealth. Funny story, I know this is a side tangent. I actually saw a video today in which a woman bought her man rental property so that they can rent it out. It was a gift. And his response was, well, I could have got a Rolex for this. He was more concerned with looking wealthy than seeing the opportunity he had to not only build wealth for himself right then, but future wealth. And I say that to get into financial insecurities, that if you know that you have, if you are a financial insecure person, and you take a look at someone who was able to overcome that, you can reverse engineer that. That's something that's nothing to do with being a creative or business. That's just in life. You have to surround yourself with people with attributes that you want and that you admire in them. It's easy to kind of get caught up in people being entrepreneurs and just think that that success came overnight for them. It doesn't. And to get back and to bring it all home, when we talk about reverse engineering your way to success, you have to know how to break down yourself. You have to know how to break down your mistakes. You also have to know and see that vision of where you want to go. All right, If you know you want to be the best podcaster in the world, that's where you want to go. What do you need to do to get to there? You need to first be able to record audio and talk reliably without saying every 5 minutes. You need to be able to work yourself and figure out how to come up with topics that are going to keep not only your audience engaged, but you engaged as a host, because that's one of the worst things I hate hearing in podcasters are podcasters who sound like they aren't even engaged in what they're talking about. They're just talking about it because that's what is hot at that moment. You have to see where you want to go. If you want to be the best in any game, how do you build yourself up to get into them? What are the skills that you need to get there? We talked earlier in this podcast about whatever's inside you will truly come out. Anybody who squeezes an orange juice is going to come out, whether that person is good, bad, or indifferent, right? You have to build in you those skills and the attributes that you need, or the drive or the goals or the plan or whatever it is. You have to build that in you so that no matter what way that your goal deters, no matter what way your vision has to move to the left where you thought you were going to go right, what ultimately is still going to come out of you is success, because you've built that in. You got, and we get caught up so much in this culture, I think, of getting caught up in just the start. And yeah, you have to get started to go. No, that's clear. We're not saying that you don't. You have to get started to actually get there. But to make that you more comfortable in taking that step to get started, reverse engineer that success. That way, you know, no matter what, at some point, no matter if I keep on this path, if I keep prepared, I'm going to eventually be successful in what I do. And that's something that I like. When I am one of the most confident people in the world, and that is not just off general cockiness. That because I do see a vision, I do see where I want to go, and I know that if I set my heart to it, if I set my heart to something that I want to do, there's not going to be anything in the world that's going to stop me from doing it. Whether it's an obstacle, whether it's myself getting in my own way, eventually I'm going to overcome it because I've focused and I've made a clear vision to where I want to go and what I want to be. We get motivational here on the Awakened Soul from time to time. That's just something that was in my heart because I was asked about it, and I really wanted to speak on it and kind of break down how it's not. And I don't want to make it seem like it's just as simple, easy. It's just going to snap, and now you're going to be successful in 6 months because you saw the vision and you think you've reverse engineered it. It's not going to be easy, but that should tell you that you want it more. If it's easy, everybody would do it. If it's easy to be an entrepreneur, we'd all be entrepreneurs and we'd all be billionaires. If it was easy to be a great podcaster, we'd all be podcasters. And even though there are thousands of podcasts out there, not all of them are great. Not all of them are going to get above the 50 downloads they get a week because you're not going to get it. But you have to really be honest with yourself. And if you set a vision and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get to that vision, and you reverse engineer it and do it step by step, you're more than likely to get there. And it may, in what has happened to me, it may deter and turn into something completely different, but you're ultimately still as happy with it because of you building it up in yourself. So think about that. But that's it. That's all I got for you guys this week on The Awakened Soul. I want to thank you guys for taking this journey with me, for listening to me spew crap off the top of my head. I try not to go into what they're calling Pastor Haize mode, so. But next week we'll be we'll be doing volume 2 of the Who Protects the Protect Her series. I actually have guests, the host of When Life Gives You Curves. Yeah, When Life Gives You Curves, if I can get that out. So we'll have them on next week. Yeah, that's really it. That's all I got. Make sure you follow the podcast at Awaken Soul Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, theawakensoulpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to send us a voicemail, you can do so at 614-547-2039. This is The Awakened Soul. I'm your host, CEO Haize, and I'll see you lovely, beautiful people next week. Peace.